Hello, I'm Angela Princewill, and while going through the internet today, I ran into this very interesting article titled 9 Expert Tactics to Avoid Paying Alimony Recommended. So I thought, well, I'll read it, right? And it just highlighted why I tell people to be careful what they read on the internet. It helped give me a better perspective on why people, when I have consultations with people for the first time, why they bring up certain factors that really have nothing to do with the case. And I'm like, voila, I see some of the information that people are getting out there. And I will tell you, most of this is wrong, okay? So the entire premise of this is be very careful the source of your information on the internet. One, a lot of it might be because it's from a different jurisdiction, and sometimes it's just plain wrong. It's not written by a lawyer. And so if you read this 9 tactics to avoid paying alimony in Ontario, for example, majority of this would not even apply to you and would probably just cause you more pain. So what are the strategies in this article? One is avoid paying it in the first place, prove your spouse was adulterous, and change up your lifestyle, end the marriage ASAP, keep tab on your spouse's relationship, have a judge evaluate your spouse's fitness to work, prove they don't need it, your spouse may not get alimony if they don't have custody, and last but not least, put an end date on alimony payments. So as a family law lawyer in Ontario, I can tell you that, well, according to this article, you can avoid paying spousal support if you have a marriage contract or a prenup in this case that addresses property issues. That is so wrong. If your marriage contract is dealing just with property, it has absolutely nothing to do with spousal support. Yes, there might be some correlation depending on if the person is getting a lot of your property. But if you put the marriage contract in place to prevent them from getting your property, then it has nothing to do with their entitlement to spousal support. Which leads me to the next one, which is the adulteress, to prove your spouse was adulterous. We have a no-fault system here, so it doesn't matter. Save yourself the heartache of all of the strategies this article is asking you to do, like, making sure that you get pictures, videos. It's not going to matter, okay? What we focus on here more is entitlement to spousal support and determining in the right way how much your support should be. So the duration, the amount, how much in the range. We have guidelines that we work with. We have, there's tools like imputing income to one party or the other. And speaking of imputing income, if you change up your lifestyle, like this article says, it advises you to go downgrade your job and, get a lower paying job so you don't have to pay spousal support. It's likely to backfire. You may find yourself having to pay spousal support on a high income or a high amount of spousal support on a lower income, because income can be imputed to you for being intentionally underemployed, okay? So don't do that. Don't just change up your lifestyle, because if a judge finds out that the only reason why you're at a lower earning bracket is just because you want to avoid spousal support, and trust me, they can make that inference, okay? And sometimes even wrongly so. So be very careful with this sort of advice because income may be imputed to you. Keeping tabs on your spouse's relationship, that is what it is. This article is saying, well, usually it would terminate your spousal support. That is not correct. That's not true. Proving they don't need it. Well, a person may not need spousal support. And what's need anyway? Do you need spousal support when you have to make ends meet? Or if you're used to a lavish lifestyle, well, you could need spousal support of $100,000 a month. So that's really, a big one. But let's even say they don't need it. There might be compensatory factors that support them getting spousal support. So Again, not likely to apply to you in Ontario. It may not, but you need to talk to an Ontario family law lawyer so that we can show you how these factors would apply in your case. So, alimony and custody, it's not likely to affect anything. It might actually have the flip. It might have the opposite effect, because if you're not having to pay child support, then it leaves you more spousal support, more room to pay spousal support to the other party. Yes, they may pay you some child support, but it will usually be less than the spousal support you have them paying you anyway. So trying to get custody, and custody here is just has to deal with decision-making authority, may not even have anything to do with residency of the child. You know, it would not affect your spousal support at all. We find that the flip side is usually the case where, you know, if you're paying child support, you may not even have the income to pay spousal support. So don't go out there trying to fight for custody of your child or fighting to be the primary care parent because you think it would avoid you having to pay spousal support. It probably wouldn't work out that way. There's other ways that we could do this. And put an end date to your alimony payment. Well, you can only do that if it's appropriate, because you know there's guidelines that we have to go by, and there's ranges. A long-term marriage, for example, you can't just put an end date to that, except you negotiate it and the other party agrees. There might be some give and take. Or if it's a shorter term marriage and the guidelines proposes an end date to it, then that's fine. But don't just read this and think you could just, you know, pick a hard line and you want to end this. And a lot of times people just pick arbitrary dates. And I think in 5 years she should be fine. She should be able to go back to work, and I'm just going to have support end in 5 years. Or even for legitimate reasons like, you know, I'm going to retire in 10 years, support has to end in 10 years. It doesn't automatically happen that way. There are factors that go into that decision. So the point is, be careful, okay? So I just thought I'll share that with you. Do talk to us if you have any questions regarding your spousal support obligations. We have a great website with lots of information on the issue. But most importantly, I would recommend that you speak with a lawyer so that you can understand how the law applies to your own specific situation.